high-level intelligence reporting the fact repeatedly. This guy is not a born American, which means he can't hold the office of President of the United States. But then again, we have to look at George W. Bush, 2000 election. He was illegally elected. The Constitution of the United States says only the Congress and Senate can make the final decision on who's going to be president from an election. This is the first time ever in American history that we have a coup d'etat where we had George Herbert Walker Bush's half-breeded second cousin, Barbara and George Herbert Walker Bush's retarded son, George W., President of the United States, through the Supreme Court, who was bribed, paid off, and extorted into allowing him to be and ruling him to be as though they were a ruling class. Those are tyrants and kings. That's the reason I have on the front of my internet site the guillotine. That's what tyrants and kings mean. And that's what the representation of a guillotine is on my site. In France, they disposed of tyrants and kings.
We're going to go to another audio, Stu. Bear with us 1 second. We're going to go to another audio now. This is called Obama gives government criminals a pass on torture. I think you should listen to this.
Special comment now on the President's revelation of the remainder of this nightmare of Bush administration torture memos. This President has gone where few before him dared. The dirty laundry, illegal, un-American, self-defeating, self-destructive, is out for all to see. Mr. Obama deserves our praise and our thanks for that. Half the distance these were. Today, Mr. President, acknowledging the science by spending our time and energy laying blame for the past. Mr. President, you're wrong. What you described would be not spent energy, but catharsis. Not blame laid, but responsibility ascribed. You continued. Our national greatness is embedded in America's ability to write its course in concert with our core values and to move forward with confidence. That is why we must resist the forces that divide us and instead come together on behalf of our common future. Indeed, we must, Mr. President, and the forces of which you speak are the ones lingering with pervasive stench from the previous administration. Far more than a criminal stench, sir, a moral one. One we cannot let be recreated in this nation. One, President Obama, it is your responsibility to make sure cannot be recreated. Forgive me for quoting from a comment I offered the night before the inauguration, but this goes to the core of the President's commendable but wholly naive intention here. This country has never moved forward with confidence without first cleansing itself of its mistaken past. In point of fact, every effort to merely draw a line in the sand and declare the past dead has served only to keep the past alive and often to strengthen it. We moved forward with slavery and the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and 49 years later we had buried 600,000 of our sons and brothers in a civil war. After that war's ending, we moved forward without the social restructuring and without the protection of the rights of minorities in the South, and a century later, we had not only not resolved anything, but black leaders were being assassinated in our southern cities. We moved forward with Germany in the reconstruction of Europe after the First World War. Nobody even arrested the German Kaiser, let alone conducted war crimes trials then, and 19 years later there was an indescribably more evil Germany and a more heart-rending Second World War. We moved forward with the trusts of the early 1900s, and today we are at the mercy of corporations which are too big to fail. We moved forward with the Palmer raids and got McCarthyism, and we moved forward with McCarthyism and got Watergate. We moved forward with Watergate, and junior members of the Ford administration realized how little was ultimately at risk. They grew up to be Donald Wolfowitz and Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney. But, Mr. President, when you say we must come together on behalf of our common future, you are entirely correct. We must focus on getting things right in the future as opposed to looking at what we got wrong in the past. That means prosecuting all those involved in the Bush administration's torture of prisoners, even if the results are nominal punishments or merely new laws. Your only other option is to let this sit and fester indefinitely, because someday there will be another Republican president, or even a Democrat, just as blind as Mr. Bush to ethics and this country's moral force. And he will look back to what you did about Mr. Bush, or what you did not do, and he will see precedent. Whereas Mr. Cheney saw, he will see how not to get caught the next time. Prosecute the president. Even if you get not one conviction, you will still have accomplished good for generations unborn. Merely by acting, you will deny a further wrong. This construction will enter the history books. Torture was legal. It worked. It saved the country. The end. This must not be. It is our intention, you said today, to assure those who carried out their duties relying in good faith upon legal advice from the Department of Justice that they will not be subject to prosecution. Mr. President, you are making history's easiest, most often made, most dangerous mistake. You are accepting the defense that somebody was just following orders. At the end of his first year in office, Mr. Lincoln tried to contextualize the Civil War for those who still wanted to compromise with evils of secession and slavery. The struggle of today, Lincoln wrote, is not altogether for today, it is for a vast future also. Mr. President, you have now been handed the beginning of that vast future. Use it to protect our children and our distant descendants from anything like this ever happening again by showing them that those who did this were neither unfairly scapegoated nor absolved. It is good to say we won't do it again. It is not, however, enough.
Very true, isn't it? They just want to give free passes to the criminals committing murder and torture, and we just need a Department of Justice system. You know, we just have to. What do you think there, Bad Baby? What do you think about that audio?
Well, you know, if you can't see the the forest for the trees, you know, I mean, just like the documents on Operation Northwoods, you know, that's, if people Google Operation Northwoods and look at some of the documents where the U.S. government has planned terrorist attacks on their own people just to start wars, you know, that's exactly what 9/11 is. It was just to get our military out of this country and leave us sitting ducks. And I'm sure Alex can back that one up.
Yep. Let me get Al on the phone. Let me get Al back on the phone. Hold on a second. Al, what do you think about that?
Yeah, Chris, and that's true. My contention from the very beginning when I saw it, I had already told the state police commander in 1994. I briefed him about some of these things. I said they're going to send all our guys overseas, and they're going to send the foreign troops here. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And in 2006, 5 years after 9/11, 2001, we had our troops deployed in 178 countries. Recently, this Chief of Staff, George Casey, Army Chief of Staff, said we had 80 countries. I got news for him, and he knows better probably. We're deployed in 178 countries, and I'm not talking about Marine security detachments, but we are deployed. Our guys are overseas, and the black helicopters and these foreign partnership for peace troops are all over this country. They're almost within shouting distance, these policemen of every place in the country. And I've sounded a warning as best I can, and that's where they are. And with that, Chris, I'm going to have to drop off this conversation now.
Okay, Al. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming on, Al.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, getting back to what we're doing here, I'd like to play another audio. This one is entitled Obama Plans on Disarming America.
Chris, before we get to that, I just want to let the people who are new onto the call and have just joined in that Alex is a former Joint Chief of Staff of the Pentagon and 35 years military, and this is where we're getting our information from.
I will not weaponize faith. I will slow our development into combat systems. I will independent defense priorities